Hello, I'm Nathan Humphrey. Today I'm going to be presenting and telling the myth of Huangdi. This is a myth that comes from a specific text from around the year 100 BC, which is before the birth of Christ. This was written by a historian named Sima Chen, and he is a historian as far as medieval people are historians, and people believed it as much as anyone believes an expert in any time. So there were skeptics and people who just accepted it. But it is largely fictitious. It is what they could gather was the history of ancient China. And so that's why much of it is a myth and fantastical in nature, but some elements of it could also be very true. So, the myth of Huangdi, when he is born, his name is Zanyan, and he is a genius boy who could speak by the age of 1, and he always grew up virtuous and humble and was just super quick to learn things. His parents would put things in his hands, like, other kids would go outside and play with sticks and rocks and stuff and chase each other around. He would build things that they could use, like, slings and a million other things. He was just gifted. But the world he grew up in was a very bad one. There was a farming god named Shenong who taught the humans of that age to farm, and he had many sons who became princes. And these princes were unruly, truly caught up in their, divinity and their status. They would raid each other, they would steal from the people, they would burn the land, they were just menaces. So Zanyan trained for much of his life in the weapons of war. And he went to them and he said, Princes, you have done wrong for too long. You must end this, or you must be punished with weapons of war. And of course, being demigods, they didn't think this dude was going to do anything to them, but he did. He struck them down, beat their armies, and he won, so they paid homage to him instead of Shenong. Now Shenong heard of this, and being, the enfeebled but prideful god he was, he said, No son of mine will serve a mortal. I will go on to this Sanyan, and I will strike him down. And he went, uh, not fully in spirit, more out of just anger than actual want to punish this guy. And he lost very badly. So uh, Zanyan was, things were looking up. He started fixing the land. He wanted to set everything right, but there was one last problem that one of the remaining princes, Chiyo, became a war god, a full-on god, even though he was just half. And he had a huge control over this desert to the west. So long as he was around, like, peace really couldn't exist the way it needed to. So he again went up to this demigod and he was like, Gio, this is enough now. Join us. Join our kingdoms in peace, and let's live as a moral and strong empire united. And Gio, he he did not agree to that, obviously. He said, You think to speak to me, a mortal and a weak one at that. Your bones will be the only thing you leave for this world. And they duked it out, but it was not an easy fight. Um, Zanyan almost lost. He had to, like, innovate to win, basically. He couldn't beat him in flat out war. So he cultivated the five grains of the world. So, and he cultivated the five elements, and he cultivated every beast of the land to help him in this war. So they were like bears, tigers. He was throwing like pots of fire. He was raising huge armies with the amount of food he could have. He had to throw everything at this guy. And after three battles in this desert, he finally beat Shio. But there was no way he would ever come to, be part of this empire. He was a war god. He could not live the way virtuous men live. So they killed him. And Zanyan looked on his kingdom now, where there could be peace, and it was massive. So all the princes agreed that Zanyan should be the emperor instead of Shenong, and even Shenong agreed. So he stopped being Zanyan and became Huangdi, who was the first emperor of China. And under Huangdi, they made massive improvements. They went from basically the start of like civilization, sort of farmers, to being a proper civilization with wheels, hunting, artistry, the three farming system, uh, ethics, virtue, law, everything. He introduced it to China and founded a dynasty that would go on for five more emperors after him. But that is why Huangdi is he's characterized as being the forefather of the Chinese people and the Chinese culture itself. Thank you for listening.